that can't attend that wanted the recording. So what you will discover today is Kelley's going to be talking to you about the ERTC tax credit. I'm going to be talking to you about some of the proposed tax changes. And I'm also going to talk to you about some of the key legal planning strategies around those. And then a bonus, if you stick around to the end, I'm going to talk about how you can be gifted $750 towards estate planning services if you'd like to do that as well. So this is for you. If you are wondering about the tax credit and what it is and how to do it, Kelley's going to give you all that great information today. If you are worried about not being prepared, maybe you have been seeing different things in the news, you're scared, you're not sure, and you're concerned about how some of these changes are going to impact your family and your business owner. And if you're watching this as an advisor, maybe you're thinking of some different strategies about how to really incorporate this. So we'll talk about that as well. So really, if you could wave a magic wand and have the peace of mind that you are prepared, that your clients are prepared, have confidence that you've planned well, and that all of your questions are answered. That is our goal for you at the end of this presentation when it comes to the ERTC tax credit and also some of the other tax strategies that are coming down the pipeline. So before we jump into that, I want to share a little bit about who we are and why we're so passionate about teaching you today and educating you. So quick background on me, and I don't know where that weird circle just came from, but I am an estate planning attorney. Underneath that circle is Arizona State University's logo. I grew up in Arizona, and before coming out to Colorado, studied engineering. That photo is my father. He's an engineer. My mom is a teacher. And when I originally followed in his footsteps and became an engineer, it was the happiest day of his life. That's what I teased my dad. And then shortly thereafter, I decided I was going to go to law school. And my family members weren't super excited about it. And I'm the first lawyer in my family. A lot of them had had bad experiences with lawyers. And I share that with you because I know a lot of people on the call today, you may have had the same experience. And so I really take that to heart. I really want people to feel comfortable speaking with a lawyer. And then I worked as an engineer for CH2M Hill before coming out to Colorado and went to the University of Colorado. If there's any Buff fans on, let me know in the chat. Tell me a yes. If there's CSU fans, you can also tell me that in the chat too. And when I got out of law school, I went to the district attorney's office up in Boulder and really, really enjoyed being in court, really enjoyed helping my community. I did both economic crimes and also helped other types of child and adult victims. And I really saw this pattern where people didn't have access to some of the tools we're going to talk about today, and their loved ones would end up in court and conflict. And so I became really passionate about being proactive, helping people plan in a way to keep their families out of that court and conflict. And really took it to heart when my own family member passed away. And when my grandma passed away, she had gone to a large estate planning firm in Arizona, and the plan that they put in place actually failed. So we ended up in probate court. It was really expensive and time consuming. There are still family members that don't speak because of it. And going through that experience, I really thought that firm had committed malpractice, but I actually found out it's very common practice. So everything about my firm is really set up to have what happened to my firm not happen to other people's firms. So other people's families, I guess I will say. And that photo in the top right is my husband and our daughter, Sophia. She's almost 7 months. And so been in practice for 11 years, started my firm. And this last year I was recognized by 5280 magazine as one of the top estate planning lawyers in Colorado. So great honor. So that is a little about me, and gonna click over and pass the torch on to Kelley.
Hi. Hello, everyone. So a little bit about me. In the bottom left, you'll see I'm from Chicago originally. That's the Chicago skyline on a sunny day. There's only about 2 of those a year in Chicago, so that's a good one. Studied at Western Illinois University. With that, I immediately had a desire to get out west. And I landed in Colorado with the organization that had hired me out of school. And it's not that taxes are exciting. It's not that it's a very sexy topic. Yet it's a topic that I'm passionate about because I come from a family of entrepreneurs. And many times business owners get into business because they have a passion for smelly soaps, or they have a passion for flowers or carpentry, whatever it may be. And these taxes that employers have to keep up with isn't something that's taught. So when I started learning about the opportunity to educate organizations about what they actually need to pay, it's a law, it's black and white, I thought this was a great opportunity for me to serve the community, business owners, and it's near and dear to my heart because some of my first clients were family members. With that, I stayed true to my passions of dance and acting and you name it. And that's why you see the theater, image in the center of this slide. And I love networking. It's in my DNA. At age 5, I was hosting and holding my lemonade stands and trying to raise money to go to the pool with my friends. And entrepreneurship is just something that is part of what I do. So I like to say that I was born to hustle in a really positive way. So that's a little bit about me. So who is Asure? Asure is the company I work for. I have been in this industry for 21 years. The joke that I say in every meeting is I started when I was 2, and my first words out of my mouth were payroll. The second word was taxes. And it feels like that as well, based on how much more I know now, yet at the same time, it's still exciting. And the reason it is because I found an organization like Asure that not only do I enjoy the product because I believe in it and I like going to Austin, Texas, yet I love the fact that we're SOC 1 and SOC 2 compliant. It's nerdy, but it's true. And it's something that is very impactful to those of you IT folks out there. Asure also is very stable. We have 60,000 clients on our platform and are continuing to grow. The culture is fun, it's fast, we have a good time, yet service is an absolute priority. So with that, getting into what the heck we do over here, our software is really equipped to handle not only that core service of payroll and tax compliance, which I talk about every day, yet it can even scale into time and attendance. We started as a time and attendance company and have something within our system called geo-tracking, which will show where the employee is clocking in from. Furthermore, HR is something else I'm passionate about. It's a have to, right? So we have to have that employee handbook. We have to have that HR hotline, like Pamela said, to mitigate that risk so we don't end up in court. And our technology really stands behind all the services we do, having one integrated platform. So recently, moving into the actual tax credit that's happening, we were informed that there was a policy change, and we're always at the front line of a lot of these changes. You'll see me reach out to you with invitations to attend webinars and even to have a conversation with me. But the latest and hottest topic has been the employee retention tax credit. So what this is saying is that employers are actually getting compensated for retaining their employees. So if it's just you and you're operating as a sole proprietorship, this isn't for you. If all of your employees are legitimately 1099s, this isn't for you. Yet if you have even just a couple employees, it absolutely is for you. There are some disclaimers that go along with the PPP loans. A lot of my clients were getting PPP funds. So the nice part is Asure is absolutely going to look at those details to figure out if your organization is able to get a credit. So moving along, next slide, please. These retroactive credits are awesome. We're actually going back into 2020. So with that, if your employees in a quarter were paid $10,000 in qualifying wages, there is a potential for you to get $5,000 tax credit per employee. Asure will go back into last year on your behalf to figure this out. And then this year, we just finished Q1, which all of you are aware. We're currently going into this quarter as well to figure out if there's tax credits that you're eligible for. With that, wages up to $10,000 per employee per quarter. 2021 is saying $7,000 per employee for up to 4 quarters. Totaling quite a bit of money, $28,000. So what exactly are we going to do? We're going to go into the payroll records, which we have already because we processed the payroll. And if I convert someone from a competitor, it's very easy for me to pull up those reports out of your system and import them into ours. We're going to review those qualifying wages. We're going to actually calculate the credit amount. I have specialists that are on this team doing it, certified accountants, professionals that are doing this. And we're also going to file the amended returns, which I haven't seen many organizations out there doing. And I've really had a great opportunity to partner with accounting firms in helping figure this out for their clients. Next slide, please. And I'm excited because look at these rules. There's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. And so the big question was, can we double dip? We got our PPP money, yet we want to see if we get this employer retention tax credit. So I'm not going to read this chart to you, but this explains number of employees, what constitutes a double dip and what doesn't. Nice part is our clients don't need to worry about this. We're going to absolutely handle it on their behalf. Next slide.
I think that was great.
So passing it over to you.
Thanks, Kelley. So if you do have questions about that piece, feel free to kind of write those down, put them in the chat. We will at the end take all the questions for both of these pieces. So thank you so much, Kelley, for kind of giving us that overview on the tax retention credit. I got $5,000 back from my firm from doing it. I know another attorney I know got $20,000. So it's really worth kind of looking into and seeing, and so helpful. So what are some of the other tax changes and proposals that are kind of coming down for you to be aware of for you and for your clients? Well, the good stuff, an increase in the child tax credit, restoring first-time home buyers credit looks like. Oh, another person entering. It looks like there's going to be a child care tax credit. And it's looking like there's going to be some educational piece around community college and potentially some other credits around education. So that's the good stuff. So what is the not so good stuff proposed at least? Well, one is the repeal and the step up in basis, which I'm going to talk about and give some examples. And the second is this potential of restoring the gift and estate tax levels back to 2009 or some other level, which we'll also talk about. These are just some of the other highlights that we've been seeing coming out. I know Biden just released some stuff this last week. So this can still change. This is kind of where it currently is. I can tell you I worked on this presentation last week and then updated it a lot. So it's fluid, but this is kind of the best information at this point that tax rates are going to go up. So what can you do about it? Well, before we get into the strategies, I want to explain a little bit more about step up of basis. And if you're not familiar with it, why people are so concerned and why you should potentially be concerned. So I want to talk a little bit about what it is, how it works, and what removal of it means. So when we're talking about basis, a really good, easy example is real estate. So if you're looking at the basis for real estate, you have the purchase price. So if you purchased a piece of property, then any improvements you made, so say you put in a pool, that would be added on. And then usually we're only talking about depreciation with real estate if you're using it as an investment property. And then the taxable gain is the sales price minus the basis. And so under current law, if say someone purchased their home in the 1970s and they spent $120,000 on it, and then today, The fair market value is $850,000. And say it's owned by the parents, they pass away and they give it to their children, and the children sell it immediately. So within the year, they sell it for that $850,000. Under kind of the current scheme right now, there's zero capital gains tax paid upon the passing in this scenario. And so let's look at the same scenario if the step up in basis was removed, which is one of the proposals. So the home is purchased in the 70s, purchase price is 120, fair market value is 850. It's inherited and sold for 850. Well, the capital gains, so that gain was 730,000, and if it's taxed at 40%, then the taxes being paid on it under this new structure would be 224,000 essentially. So that's a huge concern for most people. I think the latest proposal has that if the removal of step in basis is for real estate, it's going to be for $1 million, capital gains over $1 million. That might not affect most people if that's what ends up going through. There have been other talks around this as well. So that's how this works and why people are so concerned about it. So what can you do about that specific piece? Well, that's where generational estate planning comes in, and that's kind of my area of expertise. And so, you know, if you put that real estate in a conventional living trust, you're not going to have that. You're still going to have to pay that capital gain if that legislation goes through. But with generational estate planning, you can have it pass through in specific types of trusts. So I often design what I call lifetime asset protection trusts or dynasty trusts, and that protects it from having to pay those taxes. So that's one of the strategies that we can do with estate planning to address this specific issue. I'm not going to go super in depth in this today because we really just wanted to give you some of the general strategies and overviews and then give some time for some questions at the end. So what are some other strategies to consider when you're talking about these changes, when you're either talking with your advisors or you're talking with us? I always say, as a lawyer, I'm part of a team. So I always work with my clients' CPAs and their financial team, whether they work with an advisor, a planner, or a wealth manager. So it's really part of a team. And I guess I would also say, you know, people like Kelley who are part of that team as well, who are looking at it from her perspective. So some of the strategies that I've seen coming down that people are talking about that you should, you know, if you're a business owner listening, these are things you should be talking about with your CPA or accountant. These are some of the things that I'm seeing. So one is strategies about whether, especially if you're going to be in a different tax bracket, do you want to accelerate taking income before the change? Do you want to take bonuses now? That's things that people are talking about right now. The other thing is converting investments. So converting what type of investment vehicles. That is not my area of expertise, right? That's where I really defer. These top two, I really defer to the CPA and financial advisor. And then the third area is something that I usually get involved with, which is let's shift some income. And so some of the shifting of income sometimes can be to children, which I'll talk about here in a moment. Some can be shifting the type of entity you're being taxed under. So kind of breaking down shifting entities, some strategies to consider. So a lot of times I see, especially with sole proprietors, shifting your entity from a sole proprietorship to an LLC and choosing the S Corp tax election. Again, this is something that I usually work with my client CPA on, and we look at the overall strategy. But that's something where you're not paying the self-employment taxes, so it can result in some savings. Some other strategies that I've worked with my client CPAs on are, you know, can you legally employ your children or other family members? And this is something where you really want to work with a professional, because this is something that you want to make sure if you're audited, you're playing by the rules and doing it legally. But there are things that you can take advantage of, especially if you have children that you're going to be paying for their college education. Is there legal ways that you can employ them as a family member, also have that money go towards their college funds, and have them tax at a different rate and also get some deductions. So that's another strategy to just think about when it comes to addressing some of these changes that are coming down. And then the other major one that we talk about is leasing back property. So if you have a business where you are purchasing commercial real estate or you have equipment, there's kind of two pieces when we're thinking about this. One is asset protection and the other is some tax savings. So, you know, when we typically structure this, there's an operating company. A lot of times when I have clients, and I think I saw Aaron's on, who is a good insurance advisor, a good insurance expert. You know, when you have clients who own businesses where they have, you know, excavation equipment and they're concerned, or they have trucks and they're concerned about those being in accidents, right? Having that in a separate business entity from their operating company is going to give some shielding from asset protection if that vehicle was in an accident and it's not going to go after potentially the parent company. But the other reason to do that is to lease back. So essentially have a lease between the operating company and the company that holds the equipment for some being able to do some tax strategies as well. There's also strategies that people work through that you'd obviously want to work with your CPA on gifting gifting property to employee children and renting it back. Again, doing it the right way, making sure that leases are signed properly, both to if there was ever litigation down the road, and also if there was an audit. So those, you always want to be mindful of those too. What about leasing back a mountain bike? All right. So that's the takeaway. You really want to work with a professional. This is something you don't want to do yourself because there's the potential for an audit and then there's a potential for litigation. So you want to make sure you have things correct. So how are you doing right now? I know there's a few people that joined late. Let me know in the chat if you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed by all this, if you're feeling like this girl in this photo. I don't know if anyone's going to admit that. But we just gave you a lot of information. We're going to do some Q&A here in a moment. But I really want to give you the chance to really understand all this and understand it for your specific situation, and really get all of your questions answered. So I want to present to you a family wealth planning session. And that's really a way for you to get these questions answered. So it's a 90-minute Zoom call with me, where we will review your current asset structures and your business structures, discuss your concerns and goals, develop a strategy to protect your family and build your business, and answer all the questions for your unique situation. So normally this is $750 because it's 90 minutes of my time, and then I prep for it where I review everything you turn in advance so you can get specific feedback. But the charge today is free. So there's no charge. Because you attended this webinar, because Kelley and I invited you, or you were invited by one of our partners, I'm waiving that fee. So it's really an opportunity to have that 90 minutes of focused attention with a lawyer, because you've shown the initiative to be here today. So there is some background information I ask you to do in advance. It's through a secure link, and that allows me to really give you the most value, because I'm not giving you generalities. I'm actually reviewing everything that you've provided for me, and I usually spend about 2 to 3 hours prepping for these meetings, so you get that additional value. So I really do need that information to help prepare so I can give you the best value. So if you want to schedule that session, just send me a message in the chat with your phone number and email address. If you registered with your email, you can just drop me a private message and say your phone number, so we can get back in touch. I also have a link that you can go to right now if you want to secure it on my calendar. You will have to secure it with a credit card. We don't charge a credit card unless you're a no-show. So there's no charge unless you don't show up, but that is there as well. And then if you send me that private message, we will follow up with you and schedule your family wealth planning session and go through all of that. I will say, on average, I save my clients over $50,000. The average price that my clients invest is about $4,000 to $6,000 to do a comprehensive estate plan. So there's no pressure to work with me after we do that strategy session. But if you do work with me, those are typically to do a comprehensive estate plan where we're doing layers of living trust, and we're doing irrevocable trust, and then we do a full process. So I didn't go through all the details of that, but that's kind of some background information. What's the catch? So there is only one catch, and that is if you want to take advantage of this offer, you need to reach out to me today. So this waiving the fee is only available to the end of this webinar. So if you'd like that $750 session, just send me a direct message in the chat. And I'm seeing a few messages, so thank you. And we will get in touch with you. And if you're an advisor on here and you want to have this $750 session for one of your clients, just let me know in the chat, and we can set up a 15-minute call, talk a little bit more about your business and how we can work together to make sure your clients are getting the most value. So if you are listening to this and you want it for yourself, happy to do it for yourself. But if you want it for one of your clients or multiple clients, just let me know in the chat and send me a direct message, and I will take care of that. And then now we are going to answer any questions that you have. I think first, let's talk a little bit more about the tax credit and any questions. And I saw that there was a few questions that came up. Do you want to address some of those first, Kelley?
Yeah, so I've been getting a lot of direct messages and just answering those directly. I did see, sorry, there's just a lot of messages. Let's just open up maybe the people raising their hand to ask questions, if that works.
Yeah, so if you feel comfortable raising your hand and unmuting yourself, we can do that. If you don't want to do that for privacy reasons, just do in the chat what your question is right now, and we can read it. And you can do it as a private message to one of us, and we can read that.
I'm happy to send that chart out again as well. I did see.
Okay, I can click back to that if it's, so Cameron, yes, I do set up ILETs and charitable remainder trusts and CLTs. Yep, great question.
I see a question from Drew. Kelley, where do you see people missing the mark most when it comes to payroll services and human capital management? Integration and having one common system. In my 21 years in the industry, my career started for 13 and a half years with a company that had 3 different platforms, very well-known organization. They pay 1 in 6, but 3 different platforms when it came to offering a solution to clients. And with that, the systems did not always speak. So when systems don't speak between payroll, HR, the benefits technology, the carrier feeds going to the carriers, then that takes a human being to go ahead and re-enter information into the disparate systems, which in turn has proven and has been proven through studies that there is a total cost of ownership there. And depending on how many employees you have, you could actually be paying more per employee head to have disparate systems due to the time and the human error, right? So in working for who I work for today, we do have a common system. It's real time. Information is immediately updated. So I would say that, so system, making sure it's one single sign-on, one system. And then secondly, really with service. So we do have a direct point of contact for the client, for our clients, which saves a lot of time. Who wants to sit on hold for 3 or 4 hours? Nobody. Who wants to go into the black hole of customer service? Nobody. So with the organization I'm with, we actually have a direct point of contact, whether you have 1 employee or 25. So those are 2 major misses that I've seen, and that I always wish, like Pamela mentioned earlier, that magic wand. I wanted to wave my magic wand many years ago, but today I don't have to because we have it. I see another question. Sorry, takes me a minute to scroll these questions. Pamela, if you want to answer one of your questions, I'll come back.
Yeah, I think I got the questions. I have a few people direct messaging me and I
Me
haven't
too.
had a chance to respond to all of these, but thank you for your direct messages and I will get in contact with you. Um,
Okay. And I
Hey,
do
Pam.
see a question.
yeah,
I did actually, my question about the mountain bike was true. We were talking about this in my office today. Can you take a personal piece of equipment and own it inside of a business and then lease it back to yourself if it's a legitimate business expense in terms of business leasing out entity?
okay, so I think the legitimate question about the mountain bike, Chase, I guess typically when I've seen it is with kind of larger pieces of equipment and like larger vehicles. So I guess I some more through kind of what your objectives are. Is it more from a tax perspective or from an asset protection perspective?
It was, I said mountain bike, but it's just from an overall thing. So probably a little bit of both. And so that's
Yeah.
good. I'll connect with you later on it. I just it's something to explore.
Okay. Yeah.
I think this question that I was asked was good to address globally, so I'll do that. So it was just a question around, hey, what the heck do you charge? So I'll first cover employee retention tax credit, and then I'll shift over into payroll HR if that works for everyone. So with the employer retention tax credit, we only charge if we find credits. So once we go back into the quarter, if there's a credit to be had, and we find, say, let's just say $28,000, our fee is always going to be $500 per quarter. Okay, so that's that. We'll table that one and move into payroll HR. Payroll HR, very competitive, typically 15 to 20% less than that of any competitor. And recently, I've been coming up 50% less and offering more service. So that's exciting. As far as the payroll fees, they're very minimal. It is a tax write-off at the end of the year as well. To give you an example, if there's 3 employees paid, monthly for the entire year, you're looking at maybe $40 some a month. So it's very cheap and very affordable. And because you attended this webinar, all setup fees of typically $500 are waived. So just mention this webinar when we speak. I hope that answered the questions out there.
All right, that was great. Yeah. And then Eric, what's your question about the cap gain rates?
I believe there's a difference between a cap gain rate at 15% and at 20%. And I'm not sure if it has to do with income or what the total cap gain number is. Is that, I just need some clarity around that, I guess.
Yeah. So let me follow up with you on email and I can give you a little breakdown about it. Are you talking about what the proposal is or what it currently is?
What it currently is, I looked up something. My understanding was it's always 20% for Fed and 4.6, I think, for state. Then I looked something up online that indicated that there was a 15% rate for a cap gain under, I think it was like 471,000, but I couldn't tell if that was for income or if that was for the total amount on cap gain.
Okay. Yeah. And there's a few CPAs on here that you guys might actually know off the top of your head. So feel free to put it in the chat, unmute yourself. I don't want to call you out. I just know that the increase proposal for the 39.6% is more for portfolios over $1 million. But I will pull that up, Eric, and send it to you. Unless someone else wants to.
It's short-term versus long-term cap gains.
There we go.
Oh, Eric, I can tell you more about that.
Perfect. All right, great. All right, so I think that if there's any final questions, well, on the employee retention tax credit or on anything that we just talked about, feel free to put them in the chat now. I'll put our contact info up again. So we're happy to be a resource. Sorry, I'm gonna have to click through all this. am I able to send slides? Are you able to share your slides, Kelley?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so we can share the slides, we'll share the recording too. 'Cause I know there's a few people. So to answer that question. Someone's a buff too. Yeah, thank you. All right, great. Well, thank you all for attending. I see some questions coming through that are more kind of individual, more private stuff in direct message, so I don't want to read them out loud unless I have your permission. But we will go ahead and send the slides out and contact everybody who reached out to us. Kelley, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Cell phone, texting. So if you text this number here, that's a really quick way of getting a response. Secondarily, I'd say email.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me today, Kelley, and thank you for all of you for coming on and talking about this. And we look forward to staying in touch with you. If we can be a resource, we're happy to. I know I've worked with Kelley and gotten to know her, and she's just such a great resource. So definitely reach out to her if you haven't already. Thank you all. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Pam.